Hi everyone, Alex Tardy here with Weather Echo, and we've got an insight for you. I'm a meteorologist. I've been doing this for the past 35 years, believe it or not. A return to wet and cooler weather in the far west. This looks like a big storm. A lot of snow, major snowfall and rain. February, did you know, is the wettest month on average in California. Now, we haven't seen any precipitation really at all over the past 30 days. Let's look forward as to what is expected with this insight. All right, here's a summary. Widespread precipitation across the state between the 11th and 25th. The first batch is moving in. Could last to the end of the month. The biggest storm is in the middle of the month between Valentine's Day and the 19th. 4 to 8 feet over the Sierra Nevada. Yes, and that could be even locally higher above 10,000 feet. Did you know the Sierra Nevada stands for, in Spanish, snow-covered mountains? 1 to 4 feet, Southern California, San Gabriel's, San Bernardino's. Snow could be as low as 3,500 feet. That means even the Grapevine. Now, rain, 1 to 4 inches, most areas. So from San Diego to LA to Sacramento to San Francisco. But coastal areas, get this, could see over 10 inches of rain. And potentially even the foothills as well. But this is really targeting coastal areas with unusual rainfall with this slow-moving large storm system. Okay, I mentioned temperatures. It's been really warm. Premature snowmelt. The Great Basin, the Northern Rockies, Central Rockies, much above normal since the water year, and really over the past 30 days, as shown here as well, extending all the way up to the Canadian border, as shown here. Now, precipitation. You don't need me to tell you. Very little over the past 30 days, almost bone dry across the west, especially the southwest, as shown here. Good news, Southern California, fire weather-wise, we had a really wet period in mid-November and then late December to early January. But look at the Great Basin and Rockies and even Oregon. They're really far below normal. So some of the areas that are in purple and blue there that are much above normal for the water year are going to be really wet despite 4 weeks of dry. Now the snowpack. This is critical for water supply. This is essential for the snowmelt in the spring. The Rockies, the Wasatch, the Northern Rockies, the Cascades, Sierra Nevada now, even though we had a good start around Christmas, falling much below normal. In the east, well, you can see those unusual storms in the Mid-Atlantic region and Ohio Valley has produced that green snowpack. So big changes here to make up for this snow deficit, especially in California. Okay, how are we going to do that? Well, I mentioned a storm moving in right now as we speak, the 10th and the 11th. It's going to drop into California. It's weak, but that'll be our first precipitation. It's going to weaken, and then we're going to wait for a colder storm up in here in the Gulf of Alaska. Yes, that L there with the purple, that's going to drop down in place of this. So this is setting the stage for the change in our weather pattern and the series of cold storms and major snowfall. So this is just the first. Now the second comes in around Valentine's Day and the 15th. And as I mentioned, this one's colder, deeper, but it's slow moving as well. So it'll be able to obtain some atmospheric river moisture, and it'll sit right along the coast. That is the key of California. That's why coastal areas will get so much rain and why the mountains could see so much snow, those southwest facing slopes. Now that does kick a storm into the middle of the country as shown here as well on the 14th and 15th. So we'll watch that one as well. But the big story here is that massive upper ridge has shifted into the central Pacific. That's pumping up north of Hawaii now. Instead of having an atmospheric river there, it's an upper ridge. And that's driving this cold air down from Alaska in our storm cycle. Now, that's not it. We've got an even colder, deeper storm between the 16th and 18th. I think this is the big one. And this one takes a similar path. As you see, when the weather pattern sets up, when the atmosphere sets up and you're in that storm track, someone's in the ridge, someone's in the dry air, someone's in the warm air, someone's in the cold, snowy, wet air. In this case, California is in the direct path where the arrow is pointing here. So between the 16th and 18th, that's big rain in California, heavy rain, and also an atmospheric river that it taps into, even though weak to moderate only. The slow-moving nature and the cold, dynamic nature of the storm, that's going to be the big precipitation driver to big numbers for snow and rain. Okay, I wanted to show you here that, yeah, we do have an atmospheric river. And you can see on the 14th and 15th, it wraps up as that slow-moving storm sits off the west coast and draws moisture up from the tropics. Now, on the 16th, 17th, and 18th, that one's a little larger, maybe a little stronger, but persistent and slams right into the coast of California. So this is all about upper level features, cold air, dynamics forcing the precipitation with, of course, some atmospheric river moisture. Look at these numbers here. And I've been watching the numerical weather prediction. I'm just showing two here over the past several days. We've now seen some consistency over 4 days and counting of big numbers in the central southern Sierra Nevada, the San Gabriels, the coastal mountains of California from Santa Rosa all the way down to Santa Cruz to LA. So some big numbers in there. And a lot of this, because of the colder nature of the storm, is going to be snow. A lot of this is going to be snow, including the Southern California mountains above 6,000 feet snow. So we're talking big time precipitation over the course of 10 to 14 days here in February. Now, if you're wondering if this is going to extend, this wet period in week 2 next week is shown here as the big dip in the jet stream. It looks like it starts to retreat at the end of the month into early March, but still pounding the Pacific Northwest, where they also need more rain and snow. And then it dries out as you get into mid-March, as shown in the lower right. So these climate forecast system models give you a sneak peek out to 2, 3, or even 4 weeks. And these have been showing for more than 4 days of this big pattern change. Actually, over a week for this pattern change that we're going to see in mid-February. Hope you enjoyed this weather insight. More information is posted on X and Threads, short clips on TikTok and YouTube, and you can always check out the weather blog at weatherecho.com. All right, everyone, be safe in California. We will see some flooding with too much rain. We will have extreme travel difficulties in our mountains and even some of our lower mountain passes from Southern California all the way through the Sierra Nevada because of these series of slow-moving storms, with the biggest storm looking like between the 14th of February and the 19th of February. All right, everyone, thanks for tuning in.